anybody that wants to lose weight, you're going to want to get this, and you're going to want to share it with them. And if any of you, I was watching last night on Facebook, a young girl that I know that grew up in our hometown and actually used to work for me. I noticed that she posted this horribly sad post about struggling to start a family. And it just hit me, you guys. It just hit me. Like, I don't want to like inbox her and be like, hey, I have the answer, because people are so emotional at a time like that. And I'm sure everybody has an answer for them, right? But I kept thinking about the first time that I heard Dr. Lundell speak. And the crazy thing was, I remember that Patty Gardner's daughter was dying to get into his clinic because he helped so many people with their health. And I don't even know what Jenna's situation was, but she was wanting to get into this natural doctor. And she took him some of the shake. Because obviously, some people say, I want to take the shake to my doctor, right? And I don't know how many of you guys know this story, but Wakaya didn't go pay Dr. Lundell to come to Wakaya. They didn't go with some deal and say, hey, we want you to be our doctor. Dr. Lundell looked at the shake that Jenna brought to his clinic after Patty told me she was on a waiting list for 90 days and like freaked when she finally got in. And he called back and said, where do you get this shake? This is the most amazing ketogenic shake I've ever seen in my life. And he's a doctor that promotes keto. How many of you guys would freak out if that happened? Okay, everybody go see your doctor on Monday, right? Because the word's getting out. Keto is the way of the future right now. And when I first heard Dr. Lundell's story, I was thinking to myself what keto had done for me. How many of you, your life has been changed because of the ketogenic lifestyle? How many of you, the weight loss has totally changed your life, right? And we want to help people, don't we? But can you even imagine your life if you were dying to be a mom, and you were struggling to start a family, and you had spent years and you couldn't make it happen, and then all of a sudden you adopt 2 children and you switch your diet and you get pregnant, boom, boom. Can you even imagine that happening? And when I listened to his story, it was so emotional because Dave and I never had a problem with that. Like, Dave would just look at me and I would start gaining weight, boom, boom, boom. We know, Dave, we know. But you know, I watched my brother have 3 miscarriages and then lose 1 full term. And my other little brother spent $35,000 to get the first one after 3 miscarriages, and then went and did it again to get baby number 2. And both of those women are my age. That's how long they've been trying to make this happen. One of them is in line right now for an adoption. And when I heard Dr. Lundell's story, I thought, we've got a product here, you guys. It's not just about weight loss. It's helping people start families. And I don't want to share his whole story, but it really got me when he shared it, because you know he's just not some doctor that's paid to talk about keto. Keto is his life. And we didn't just go find him to be a Wakaya doctor. You know what they always say, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the ones that he calls. And I really feel like it's a God thing that we have this guy as our doctor in this company in Wakaya Perfection, because we are the keto company that is just absolutely rocking this industry. So I don't want to take any more of his time. It is his birthday. We appreciate you so much taking time away from your beautiful family. And I got to meet his wife. She's pretty awesome too. And he is going to share with us tonight a little bit about BulaFit and the ketogenic lifestyle for those of you that want to get started. And tomorrow he's going to really get into all the science. So with no further ado, Dr. Randy Lundell.
Yeah, I know he is. Just wait till tomorrow.
They make me dance in Baltimore, so.
Yeah, I know. I feel a little more relaxed here, don't I?
Thank you so much for the nice, warm welcome. It's just been amazing to be here. I've never been to Kansas City, so it's great, and it's just been a blast. It's been a blast being here. So let me just tell you, what do you think, or I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think are the 2 things, the 2 top complaints I hear in my clinic every single day? What do people come and tell me every day?
I heard,
I'm tired,
stressed.
and I'm stressed, and I can't lose weight. So in fact, we call it TFD in our clinic, tired, fat, and depressed. And it's true. Like, those are the 2 things. In fact, I could walk in with probably 90+% of the folks that come and see me and say, boy, you look really tired. Are you tired? you know, and I'll bet you want to lose some weight, right? And they're just like, you're like a mind reader, Dr. Lundell. You know that. Anyway, so yeah, so this is me. This is my clinic. I've been in practice. I was a military doc for about 7 years before I went into private practice. And it is true, I've seen probably over 15,000 patients. And I love what I do. And this is my philosophy. So the sign of a good doctor should be how many patients he can get off medications, not how many he puts on medications. And I really do that. I mean, that is how I practice. And I'm board certified in family medicine. And I have been. I deployed to Iraq. I covered the emergency room. But also, you know, I've done this additional training in what's called functional medicine. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit here. But what is my why for being healthy? Well, that's a big part of it, right there. And then that's a big part of it. And I think I might have the wrong presentation, so we might have to go back really fast. But this is a good one, too. That might be tomorrow's. So you got a preview, so I'm going to come back tomorrow. Okay, yeah, this is the right one. Awesome. Okay. I got excited about seeing my boys. That's why I wanted to be on that presentation. Okay, so yeah, board certified in family medicine, but also have done 2 fellowships, one through the American Academy of Anti-Aging and one through the Institute for Functional Medicine. And functional medicine is this, which I believe is what kind of perfection is about, which is about being more health-oriented, patient-centered, holistic, looks at the underlying cause of disease, biochemical individuality, and a preventative approach, because everything about turmeric and ginger. So how do you say this word? T-U-R-N. Turn. Turn. T-U-R-M. Turmeric, right? Now we got it. Okay.
Thank you.
But those things, those botanicals, are incredibly helpful and very preventative, right, for health. Okay, so there we go. This is my practice. It's called Health Rejuvenation Institute. So what is my story concerning the keto diet? Well, I was so lucky. Literally, like 9 years ago, I had finished residency, and I was, I was overweight because I'm eating candy and I'm drinking Mountain Dew and I'm just like trying to survive, and I'm hanging out with the ICU nurses, and I'm like, I have to test their snacks, right, at the ICU, and I got really fat. And in the Army, and there's a lot who's been in the Army or then in the military services, right? You gotta pass a PT test every 6 months. And you don't wanna go on Fat Boy program. So, that's what we called it. And so I said, man, I gotta do something about this. And I was so lucky. I think it was, like Barb said, I do think it was kind of a divine thing for me. It really was. That I read this book, and it was the ketogenic diet. And I said, and it made sense to me. Like I read it, and and I'll explain what I'm going to talk to you about. It made sense to me. And so I started eating that way, and within 6 months, I'd lost 35 or 40 pounds. And I went down to like the best shape of my entire life. And so it was a big, big change. Well, what happens when you start feeling better? What do? You tell people. You tell people, you tell your family, and my wife, and we were like, hey, let's do this together. I was deployed to Iraq, and there's my wife right there, and I said, hey, let's do this together, and she started feeling so much better. And the result of that was that we didn't get pregnant for the first 20 years of our marriage. And so for 20 years, we adopted these 3 amazing kids. And so 3 adopted kids later, we got better. We balanced hormones, we changed our diet, we did all the things that we knew we should do to be healthy, and that's what happened. Right there. So that's awesome. That's my 7-year-old son, he's 9 now, sorry, Mark, and this is Ty. And I have to read you something that my wife texted me today, because Ty got in trouble at school today. And Ty said, it's okay, Mom, I got in trouble. and I got in trouble for talking too much. I have a lot to say. It's my dad's birthday.
Nice. That is awesome. Yeah, it is.
And I remember my wife and I were just so overjoyed and thrilled that this could actually happen. And some days we still look at each other and we like almost have to pinch ourselves like, did that really happen? Do those humans really exist? I mean, it's just like so incredible. And I get to come home to them every day and get to coach them soccer, and it's just awesome. But there is the whole crew put together right there from top to bottom. And of course, my daughter Caitlin just got married, so these studs right here were the ring security, right? And there's the whole crew put together with our new son-in-law, Zach. And I just had them over to the house because even though they're my kids, right? They're like, Dad, you got to get us on board. Come on, help us get going on this. We want to get going. They want to be healthy. So so we had a good keto talk. So, okay. So I do believe that gratitude is something that I sort of start my day with. I just think it's so important. And we know that there are, if you've read through the pamphlet, there are the 5 pillars of warrior health, which are really important. But I do believe this. This is such a powerful concept that what you find at the end of your fork is more powerful than anything you find at the bottom of a pill bottle. Because if you want to change your life, change the way you eat and start today. Because if you do that, your life will change. Because I see it every day in my clinic. And so food is not just calories, but it's information, and it talks to your DNA. Now, when people eat on a ketogenic diet, and we'll get into this a little bit, they produce these things called beta-hydroxybutyrate, which comes from your liver. So your liver takes this fat that you've been storing on your body that, for a rainy day, but for most people, the rainy day never comes, so you never get rid of the fat. But when your body can finally access that fat and burn it, these ketones, or beta-hydroxybutyrate, they talk to your DNA, and they slow down the aging process, and they decrease inflammation. It's amazing. There's tons of research to show all this. So what is it? So what is a ketogenic diet? It's a lot more fat. It's a lot of fat. What was the big thing we were told, back in the 80s and 90s? What was it? Don't eat fat. We were all eating snack club cookies, right? Those little packages that were low fat. And I remember my wife and I tell the story that we would go to get breadsticks, and we'd be like, hold the butter, because we don't want to have the fat. And then by eating the breadsticks, we just got fat, is what happened. But on a ketogenic diet, it's a lot of fat, it's a little bit of carb, and it's more moderate protein. So Atkins' diet was probably more protein, still low carb, but not as much fat. So a lot of people, that question comes up a lot. Okay, so and this kind of gives you an idea as well. This is typically how Americans eat, right there, which is mostly carbs, and then some fat and lower protein. And we're talking more fat, a little bit of carbs, and moderate protein. Okay. So why do we do this? Because this is how I explain it to my patients when they come in to see me. If you have extra, who has extra fat in their body? Anybody? Yeah, everybody here. How did it get there? How did it get there? Your body said, look, your body said, this person is eating an excessive amount of carbohydrates. There must be a famine coming soon, so we're going to store that fat for the famine. But the famine never comes in our day, right? So it just continues to store fat. And so the only way that you can access your fat to dip into your 2-year supply, right, is you have to stop what was creating the problem in the first place. And so we're going to talk about that. Okay. So, but what happens is when you can finally decrease the amount of sugar that you eat, then your insulin goes down, and your body says, oh my goodness, there's not this constant supply of sugar coming in. So now the liver says, I got a decision to make. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to take that fat that you've been storing up, I'm going to turn it into energy for you. And so that's why these people that you've seen stand up in the room here can lose a tremendous amount of weight, because it's literally just working with your physiology, right? It's teaching your body to use fat for fuel instead of these carbohydrates that you've been consuming all the time. Okay, so what is the history? Well, again, we probably, we ate a lot of fruits and vegetables in their time and season. And I talked about this a little bit on the product call the other night, that we had a lot of fruits and vegetables in the fall, which was a good thing when they were in season, so you could get a little bit fat for the winter, and then you could have a little fluff for the winter to make it through, and then in the winter you wouldn't have access to all the fruits and vegetables and all that sort of stuff. And so it was kind of an adaptation. The body's really smart, right? It says, hey, we're going to store this energy you're giving us because we don't want you to die. But we're dying because we're storing too much. Okay, so don't blame the butter for what the bread really did, right? So, and I really believe this. Like, when we tell people you have to increase the amount of fat that you eat, it's got to be more of the good butter, the coconut oil. Okay, so low-fat guidelines came out, right? And what happened, everybody? We all got fat. That's basically what this means. So it didn't work. This hangs on my office, which is beware of sugar. Because look at this. The average American consumes about 152 pounds of sugar a year. And 80% of our 600,000 food products have added sugar. So everything has sugar in it. And when you eat that much sugar, what's the hormone that always goes up? It's insulin, right? What's insulin's job? Store fat. Right? So is it any wonder why we're all getting fat? You eat all this sugar, your insulin goes up, you're going to get fat. You're going to gain weight. Okay, so this too, like, look, Fruit Gushers, here's yogurt, M&Ms. There's more in your spaghetti sauce than there is in M&Ms. So you have to watch it, right? Right? Exactly. Jennifer just said she's getting M&Ms. More spaghetti sauce. Who's ever been on this roller coaster, right? You eat sugar, feel good for a minute, and then boom, you feel bad, right? So this crash, and then what do? What's the next thing you do? You eat more sugar. And what happens to your insulin? It goes back up, and you just keep storing fat, because, the rainy day's got to be coming, right? Okay. Oh, whoops, sorry about that. What did I do there? Because you start breathing. All right, I got it. Okay. Okay, so this is just another thing saying, look at all these people that have pre-diabetes, diabetes, that's what this says. So how do you get into ketosis? This is my new favorite slide, and I want you all to understand this, and it's kind of what we've been talking about. Okay, so what this graph is showing is the influence of insulin. Your body only recognizes three things: carbs, fats, protein. That's it. You got your micronutrients, which are your vitamins and minerals, but as far as like food. And so when you eat carbohydrates, which is sugar, bread, pizza, pasta, breadsticks, even high glycemic fruits, chips, corn chips, gluten-free bread. Oh my heavens, gluten-free bread. Okay, gluten-free brownies. But they're gluten-free, Doc. Yeah, but they're sugar full. So what happens? Carbs go up, and then insulin goes up. What's insulin's job? Say it out loud. Store fat. Okay, look what happens with protein. It's only about maybe half, right? Look what happens when you eat fat. Nothing. That's why when you eat fat, you can burn fat, because your insulin is not going up. You're not in storage mode, you're in burning mode.
Picture that.
And hey, John, stand up. Where's John? Did he leave? He took off. I was just going to say, he lost 120 pounds, right? You don't lose 120 pounds unless you can actually tap into burning fat, right? Okay, so how many grams of carbs should I eat in a day then, Dr. Lundell? I get this question all the time. 0. Well, look at this. This is another chart that I show most of my patients when they come in. Most of Americans are on this line. This represents someone's weight, okay? So, and it's represented by a BMI, which is their body mass index. So obviously this is heavier and this is lighter, and this is the number of carbohydrates you can tolerate in a day. So pay attention to this, because this is really important. Most Americans are probably right there. So what you see from this is you're going to be overweight unless you decrease the amount of carbohydrates you eat And even if you get down to 150 in a day, you're still not going to lose weight. But the minute that you start getting to 100 and maybe 50 and maybe 20, you're going to lose a lot of weight, right? So what I tell people is, in order to get this weight loss the way that you would like it, you have to get at least to 50 grams of carbohydrates in a day. Okay, so this is my fun little activity, and we'll see if it works great. This is Google. This is not a special app. How many grams of carbs in a cup of oatmeal?
There are 27 grams of total carbohydrate in 1 cup of cooked instant fortified oats.
Okay, so you're halfway done for the day, just with breakfast. Do you get what I'm saying? It goes fast. So you have, and I tell women, it's like you got $50 to spend at the store. You get to decide how you want to spend it. So if you want to spend $27 on oatmeal, then great, go for it. But you only have $50 to spend in a day. Because if you spend over 50, what's going to happen? You're going to go right back up the curve, right? So that's why it's got to be a lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's not a diet. I've been doing this for 8 years, right? So 8, 9 years. Okay, so there's my trick. You can take carbs when you have total carbohydrates and you have dietary fiber. You can minus it out so you get net carbs. So it's 2.2. So that's kind of a good thing if you have fiber and stuff. So what has fiber in it? Nuts, vegetables, some fruits, right? So you can take that out. Okay, so how much protein should you get? It's not an Atkins diet. I'd say about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. If you want to do a little more math on this later, we can. But I tell people, especially women, about 90 grams of protein. That might be a little high for some ladies, but that's a good number to kind of shoot for. And a cup of chicken is about 30. So 30, 60, 90, right? Something like that. Okay, so how long does it take? People that are very fit and athletic, 2 to 3 days. The majority of us, 2 to 3 weeks, probably, to get into ketosis, to where what's happening in ketosis is your liver sits there and it goes, oh my goodness, there's not all these carbohydrates coming in. What do I need to do? Well, oh, this is the time now that we get to go use that food storage that you put on your waist, and we're going to take that fat and we're going to turn it into ketones, into beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, acetone, and turn it into these ketones, and then your body can use that for fuel. So when you go into ketosis, what this means is your body being able to access that fat for fuel. Okay, so how do you know if you're there? This is the best way. Fasting insulin. Who checks their fasting blood sugars in the morning? Anybody? Okay. So if you get a glucometer, they're very inexpensive. If you do a finger stick blood glucose in the morning and your level is under 80, some people say 90, but I'm a little more stringent. 80, you're in ketosis. If your fasting blood sugar in the morning is not under that, you're not in ketosis. And you can also now monitor blood ketones, and because ketones will show you also if you're in ketosis. And who does this, or who's done this before? Anybody? Okay. So if you want to learn more about this, I'll talk to you about this later. But you can measure it, and that's the way I would do it. The easiest way, there it is, right there. So if you're under 80, you're in ketosis. If your hemoglobin A1C, who knows what theirs is? 5.1. Very good.
I've got 0.7
points.
points getting there.
That is awesome. So you were 5.8.
I was at 7.6.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, and 5.1 is back to normal. So that's diabetic to normal. So give her a hand. That's pretty nice. And you know how that happens? Is because when your body can use fat for fuel, what can happen with your blood sugars and you still feel okay? They can be really low. They can be super low because your body's using the fat for energy now and no longer the sugar. Okay, good. So this is my little acronym that you can take home with you. I'm kind of goofy in my clinic because I do acronyms for all my patients, but people don't forget it when you do an acronym. So I am keto, right? So what are the benefits of a ketogenic diet? Inflammation. It turns down inflammation better than any food plan. They've studied it. It turns down inflammation better than any food plan out there. It suppresses your appetite, right? Who's not hungry? you just don't get hungry because your body actually increases production of leptin when you're in a ketogenic diet. What does leptin do? It turns off the hunger signal, so you're not hungry. Okay, and then also it's tremendous for mood. It helps you make more GABA. That's a neurotransmitter that makes people happy. It makes you keen, and you like my cholesterol spelling there? So it makes your brain function. Your brain would rather use ketones that come from fat than it would glucose. And who has Alzheimer's in their family? I know I'm going long-winded, but I can't help. I gotta talk about this stuff. This is good stuff. Okay, so who's worried about getting Alzheimer's? Okay, so I have a good friend. She just wrote a book. She's a functional medicine doc, and it was on Alzheimer's. And one of the things that came out of that, which this is really important and fairly new stuff, is that they're learning that your brain cells become less sensitive to glucose the older that you get. That's why people, then you can't get the fuel into your brain to function and to remember and learn and remember people's names. And what they're learning though is that the ketones from being on a ketogenic diet, the ketones can go right into the cell, into the mitochondria and produce energy, and these people are doing so much better on a ketogenic diet. So it helps your brain. And energy, right? Tired, fat, depressed. Are they on the list? Yes. Tired, fat, that's thinning. Depressed, mood, and then ovulation. Clearly that worked at my house. So. And my wife was 41 and 43 at the time. So I got you, Dave.
Wow. Definitely.
Okay, so we saw this. Beta-hydroxybutyrate is great for all those things. It's amazing, right? It's better than the other stuff. And then this is cholesterol. Everybody always messages me about their cholesterol. Okay, so remember this one thing. Small LDL particles. That's the most important lab that you get done, and it has to be done with an NMR. That's the cholesterol test. It can't be a regular cholesterol panel. But if you do a regular cholesterol panel, two things will always happen. Your triglycerides will go down, and your HDL will go up, and those are good. That's good cholesterol, right? Always. I see it every day. We want the mitochondria to kick butt because that's where you make energy. And what did I just tell you? Ketones from being on a ketogenic diet get into that cell. That's the part of the cell they get into to give energy. And it makes your brain better function. All these things. I've seen, obviously, better fertility. Probably was better sex drive, too. So that was part of the better fertility in our case. So, but it does. I see this with people all the time. It slows the aging process. Faster recovery from exercise and decreases anxiety and mood swings. Okay, so what makes it easier to get into ketosis? So we're telling you that if we want you to be, a regular diet would be kind of low carbs, and you have 50 to spend in a day, moderate protein and high fat. Well, that's what the keto fuel does, because it's 5 grams of carbs, so you're going to spend 5 of your $50. That's great, right? And then 12 of protein and 21 grams of fat. Has anyone ever kept track of how much fat they consume in a day? What did you get to? How many? You tried to keep it under 18?
Yeah, I was feeling.
So, yeah. So, yeah, if you restrict calories, you'll lose weight for a while, but you won't be able to sustain it. That's what most people tell me. So, has anyone ever kept track of how many they eat? So, what did you get up to?
I eat 120 on average.
Okay, so I have a really good. You need to eat more fat and keep your carbs down. You won't be tired because fats are a better source of fuel than carbs. Okay, this also helps, right? Because a lot of people that first month, they really struggle. They get that keto flu, they're tired, and they just, and so the burn cap can be really helpful, I think, especially during that first month. Because that first month when you're trying to get keto adapted and get your body to kind of use fat for fuel, that can be super helpful. And he's photobombing me. This was at the Booze Bash in Vegas. So what slows down weight loss when you're on a ketogenic diet? Well, being stressed, right? And not sleeping. Because what hormone goes up when you're sleeping and you're all stressed out? It's always cortisol, right? So cortisol goes out of whack, and what does cortisol do? Cortisol says, hey, this gal must be running from a saber-toothed tiger. We gotta run. And so in order to run, you gotta have sugar. So then your body produces glucose, and then what happens to when the glucose goes up? What else goes up? Insulin. And insulin, let's do it again. Insulin stores fat. So you don't want your insulin to go up. And the thing that makes your insulin go up is sugar, is carbs. Okay, so blood sugars go up because cortisol goes up, and then insulin, and it's this vicious cycle people get into. So what can help at night? Using the nightcap, because cortisol, a lot of times, people get into a bad rhythm sometimes where they're waking up at night. Anybody got that going? Where you're like, dang it, what the heck? I can't go to sleep at night. I'm tired first thing in the morning. It's because your cortisol's backwards now. And so that melatonin can help at night to get your rhythm back on track. And then salt. When you go on a ketogenic diet, you have to put back salt because otherwise you're going to lose. I'm talking really fast because I know I don't have very much time. So, what's that? Okay, so salt's really important on a ketogenic diet because it'll help you hold on to your magnesium and your potassium, because some of the things I hear quite frequently are I get dizzy when I stand up, I get headaches, my blood pressure's dropping, and a lot of that is just you need to incorporate more salt in your diet. And so those are my recommendations. Now you can do that with bouillon if you like to drink bouillon. I'll even just get like chicken stock, or I'll use bone broth, and you can add salt to it, something like that. But having salt back in the diet can alleviate a lot of the problems that people get with the keto flu. So again, salt, super important, like we were talking about. And then this is my other thing. The reason people fail on a ketogenic diet is because they don't do these things, right? It's not a ketogenic diet. That's the thing I always try to tell them. It's a ketogenic lifestyle. And the lifestyle to me is also, you have to manage stress. You gotta find some time to get some exercise, even if it's just light walking. And, stay on the ketogenic diet, and you gotta go to bed. Okay, on the live broadcast thing I did last night, did anybody see that? Okay, so when do you think, from the 24-hour clock cycle, when do you think are the 2 hours in your day that you burn the most amount of fat? Wow, somebody's listening. Very good. So it's 10 p.m. to 12 p.m., but not if you're awake. You have to be asleep in order to burn the fat. So if you get to bed by 10 o'clock, you're burning the most fat between 10 and 12. So get your butt to bed. There's nothing you can do between 10 and 12 that you can't do from 5 to 7. Just go to bed earlier and get up earlier. Okay, and then if you're gonna do exercise, resistance training is the way to go. It is. It's the way to go. You make muscle, you burn calories faster. You don't burn your adrenals out when you do resistance training. Or if you're gonna do a little bit of exercise, like cardio exercise, I tell people to do high intensity interval training. So like you run for 30 seconds and then you walk for a minute and a half, and you run for 30 seconds, and you only do that for like 20 to 30 minutes. Because guess what? Okay, this is what patients come into me all the time. Dr. Lundell, I have been exercising like crazy, and I am not losing weight.
I hear that.
How many times do I hear that? Like every day. And I say to them, well, you're not going to lose weight because it's not exercise that helps you lose weight. And it's this analogy my dad always uses, that the problem with his weight is in his elbow. Because every time his elbow bends, his mouth opens. It's your diet. You've got to change it. And then we go back to that graph. Remember, that had all the curves on it? And we said, you're not going to lose weight unless you keep your carbs down where they need to be, so that your body can tap into those fat resources. And so then when people see that, and when I do that phone trick with people, what do you think most of their reaction is? They're pretty blown away, right? They're like, wow, that's a lot of carbs. I've been eating a lot of carbs. And those are healthy foods, right? Healthy foods. Okay. So you can never exercise your way out of a bad diet. You lose. In fact, I tell my patients, don't exercise. Stop. And just change the way you eat. And they're shocked because they lose weight. And they lose weight fast because they're they're changing the way that their metabolism is working. Okay, the other thing that makes it go bad is having kind of a bad gut. So when people have a bad gut, they tend to let more inflammation in. So this is where ginger and turmeric can be really helpful, right? To get people's inflammation down. When you take ginger, it kills the candida or the bad yeast that are in your gut. And so many times people come to me, they bloating and they have sugar cravings, and a lot of that bloating and sugar cravings really come because they have the wrong kind of bacteria in their gut. They have like yeast, or they have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And the only way that you can get rid of that is to do something about it with your food and maybe some sort of an herbal. And that's where things like ginger can be really helpful because it kills candida. And if you can kill candida, then you can kill a lot of people's sugar cravings. My wife, we tested it. You can do a blood test to check candida. She would feel like sometimes before she had done something to get rid of the yeast, she said she would go into a store and she felt like the candy section was calling her name,
Yeah.
Catherine, come to me, eat sugar. And I think a lot of that really is. The bugs in your gut determine a lot of your food cravings. And when you go on a ketogenic diet, what sugar goes down and which bugs kind of die off? Candida, yeast goes away, right? And so then you put a probiotic on board and you get the good guys back in there. Okay. The other thing you can do, like we said, so the turmeric and the ginger and the chelate, so it can help you to detox with the bentonite clay because it can kind of help carry out the bad guys like the yeast. Also, taking a digestive enzyme or even something that helps keeping your bowels moving can be really helpful too during that time. I'm a big fan of fermented foods. Who makes their own fermented foods in here? Anybody? You should do it. It's God's way of giving you good bacteria back to your gut. And our ancestors all used to do it. They made sauerkraut. They did all these great things that they were doing to just preserve life, right? So that they could have food. But there were so many health benefits. So fermented foods. And then, of course, being on a ketogenic plan. So just in summary, this is kind of some of the big stuff we talked about. Getting your body to burn fat for fuel and not sugar. Because insulin... Let's do it again. Insulin
stores fat.
What makes insulin go up? Somebody said stress, which was awesome. But yes, sugar, carbs, right? Pizza, pasta, breadsticks. All that stuff you eat for breakfast every morning. Okay. And then, so limit your carbs. You got $50 to spend, right? You can spend them how you want. People ask me, can I eat a grapefruit? It's got 14 grams of carbs. If you want to spend $14, go for it. It's up to you. And it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get in to become fat adapted. Don't overconsume, or don't forget to consume salt so you don't get the leg cramps and other issues there. And then, of course, the 2 things that can slow it down are cortisol. Get to bed by what time? Very good. Okay. And then best sort of exercise is resistance training because it increases insulin sensitivity, which is what we want. And remember, the ketogenic diet lifestyle benefits you more than just weight loss. Let's go through them again. The I was for inflammation. The M, mood. A, appetite and athletic performance. I am keto. K, keen in cholesterol. The E, energy. The T is thinning. And the O is hormonal balance, which is ovulation. So thank you very much.